All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to EDUC 396 Collaborative Teaming. Sorry, this is coming a little bit late. I have tested this now, and it is recording, so we should be all set. Today is really just an introductory lecture to kind of go over the content of the course, what we're going to be looking at, go over a couple of the assignments that are in Module 1 and get you guys off and running. So there's going to be a little bit of interplay between the text and the lectures. The content of the course is kind of a combination of what Dr. Darcy put together last year, what I've taught in the past. There's a few different kind of sources that are going to be going into this course, but this course, more than most of the courses that I end up teaching, is less about kind of strict content as like EDUC 392 or EDUC 382, the Applied Behavior Analysis course are, and more about what it actually means to be out in the field working with people. So while there are specific things that I'm going to want you to focus on and think about as you are taking this course, or refer back to, I guess, in terms of specific content, this isn't a course that's focused on memorizing facts. This is a course that is really focused on thinking about where you stand with collaboration, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and eventually what you are going to want to improve as time goes on and as you are in the education environment, working with people, teaching with people, dealing with people in your classrooms. So for today, we are very simply going to be going over some of the assignments and the course calendar, what this course is actually going to look like, what some of the expectations are for some of the different assignments, including the discussion forums and the collaboration log in particular. We're going to talk about what the goals of the semester are in terms of the types of collaboration you'll be engaging in, what collaboration looks like in schools, and what are the essential skills for success in those collaborative environments. And then finally, we will go over some of the Module 1 assignments and some content. All right. So when we talk about collaboration, obviously what should come to mind is this idea of working together. But in a school system, that can look like a lot of different things. That looks like different things each collaborative environment or relationship looks different depending on who you are collaborating with. And what your role is in the collaborative process is going to be changing depending on who that is that you end up collaborating with. So in some situations, you are kind of the lead of the collaborative team. Sometimes it is an equal team, and sometimes you are a follower in that collaborative team. So in each of those scenarios, obviously your role is going to be different, but how you collaborate and the style of collaboration you use and kind of what it means to be a good collaborator are going to change depending on who you are collaborating with. So who then can you collaborate with? Who are the people in the school environment that you should be thinking of? Well, if you are a general educator, and I know they're on this list, but you are going to be collaborating with special educators. You're going to be collaborating with paraprofessionals, administration, support services, case managers, district personnel, parents, students. There are all these different stakeholders or people that have something riding on your classroom, your students, your performance, your students' performance, the school's performance, all of which has to do with how you are, what you are doing in your classroom and how you are working with those around you. And what's interesting about each of these collaborative relationships is that the structure or the way in which you collaborate with each of these people is going to be very different and changing. And how you collaborate, how you behave, how you respond is going to be very different in any of those different situations. So take parents as an example. So I can think of, or just off the top of my head, I can think of three different scenarios in which you are collaborating or working with or communicating with parents in some way, shape, or form. So one is very formal. You have parent-teacher conferences, right? Your parent comes in, you are working with the parent to disseminate information about the successes and challenges that their student is facing. The parent is going to echo or challenge what you have to say, saying, yeah, we see the same thing at home, or no, we're seeing something different, or we're seeing these things. I know you may not be seeing them in the school, but can we work on that? So you're in that parent-teacher conference, you are leading the collaborative model, but you are there's a kind of much more formal structure to what is happening there. Contrast that with a call home. Maybe it's something good, maybe it's something bad that happened at school, where you are communicating specific information to a parent, and how you behave and speak and collaborate in that sense is going to be very, very different than what happens in that formal meeting. And then a third version of that might be a parent comes to provide support for a field trip, and you are still in a formal school setting, but a much less structured collaborative setting. So three different structures or forms to have some sort of collaborative relationship with the parent that you would handle differently in each of those settings. And thinking about what it means overall to collaborate with parents and have a relationship with a parent that is beneficial to you, the student, and the parent means that you're going to have to take all three of those situations into account. So when we are thinking of collaboration, it's very important to consider the different people that we will be collaborating with, the different roles that each of those people play relative to you as well as relative to the student. And we have to think about the different types of collaborative relationships that we are going to be having with each of those people. So on the more formal side of things, and specifically within the special education world, what are some of the specific ways that, or specific structures that we have set up to collaborate with other individuals? Well, we have, none of this should be new to anybody, but we have the response to intervention structure. We have the individualized education plan or IEP structure, and we have the continuum of services. Again, each of these is set up to provide a formal structure for very different forms of collaboration. You do not plan on collaborating the same way through the continuum of services as you do on an IEP team. You have different goals, you have different personnel, you have different settings, you have different relationships. Those are completely different collaborative models, but both are necessary for success for all students, and both are very much going to be part of your collaborative environment. So before we go into the different types of collaborative environments in any more detail, I want to spend a minute and talk to you about what it looks like in general to have good collaboration. What are the characteristics of collaboration that we see? So the text that you have, says interpersonal collaboration is a style for direct interaction between at least two co-equal parties voluntarily engaged in shared decision making as they work toward a common goal. So there's a lot to kind of unpack there. And I think the first thing to recognize is that collaboration, or the interpersonal, which is what we're dealing with person to person here, is a style. It is not the only form of collaboration, um, but there are other types of collaboration that are separate and apart, and this type of collaborative environment that we are talking about is unique. Uh, there are things that are going to define it. Some of the obvious things are going to be things like being a good listener, being respectful, um, and not dictating towards. Uh, but it is not the only style of collaboration that is out there. So be thinking of that, when you are thinking of how you interact in other relationships, in other ways, how that might be different, how might be the same than what we talk about over the course of the semester. Second thing is the idea of two co-equal parties. Now, before, I had mentioned that there are going to be some collaborative environments where you are leading collaboration. There are some that are going to be where you are all working together, and some where you are going to be a little bit more of a follower. That doesn't mean that we are talking about like boss and employee relationships. The idea behind collaboration, whether you're leading, equal, or follower, is that everyone is working on the same level towards the same goal. When you collaborate with a parent, to extend the example that I gave before, you are not going to be talking down to a parent. You are going to be talking with the parent as an equal. You have different or more robust information, but your job in that collaborative environment is to bring the parent up to speed on the information that you are working with, and you have and you are familiar with, such that they can be actually equal on all levels. If you are following, your role in that collaboration should be still to work towards the greater good that your leader is working towards as well. So just because you are playing a different role in that collaborative relationship does not mean that the people that you are collaborating with are unequal. That might sound, if you go back and look at the list of people that we collaborate with, there are a couple on here that might sound a little bit off, right? So how are you equal to your school administrator? How is your student equal to you? How is your paraprofessional equal to you? And again, what I would say there is that it's not about the hierarchy in pay and position and anything else that is structural, but rather the common goal that you are working on. So your paraprofessional is equal to you in their goal of educating the students that you have. Your administrator is equal to you in the common goal of educating the students that you have. Your students are equal to you in that common goal, et cetera, et cetera. So equality in this sense does not necessarily have to do with that structural level, but rather in terms of what is everyone's goal and what is everyone's role towards achieving that goal. Third piece, voluntary. Collaboration is not defined or cannot be defined by individuals who do not want to be there, who do not want to be a part of that environment. by, when that occurs, you are unavoidably going to have a lack of quality collaboration. You're going to have a lack of a collaborative environment. If you have someone who is just trying to leave, they cannot be working towards the goal in the same way. A really easy or good example of this is with the collaborative relationship between you and your students. It is much easier to work with, to collaborate with your students who are excited to be at school, who are ready, who are engaged, who are doing everything that they need to do. It is much, much more challenging, not impossible, but much more challenging to collaborate with those students who are trying to get out of the classroom, who don't want to be there, who are doing everything that they can to not be a part of that collaborative environment. So making sure that people are voluntarily engaged in that process is a key to success. And finally, working towards a common goal. That is not the same as working towards one goal, but at any given time, collaboration does require that we are working towards a common goal. We can have multiple goals to reach that common goal. You're working on math, you're working on ELA, you're working on science, you're working on social studies. Those are different goals within the common goal of educating an individual. So when all of these are in place, we should have the formula for good collaboration. That does not always mean that we are going to get there, but we have the building blocks to be able to be successful. So, whoops. All right. So as we continue to talk about different ways and good ways to collaborate in schools, there's a little video here on YouTube that looks like it's something like a PLC or grade level or professional learning community. That is an example of good collaboration. And I'll let you watch it on your own. We don't need to watch it here. It's not the best video in the world, but it's not the worst. But you can very easily see how the individuals who are in this video are very intentionally working with each other. They are treating each other as equals. They're there because they want to be and are working towards a common goal. So it very quickly and effectively shows you kind of what the environment looks like when there are good collaborative communities. So as we kind of jump off into the rest of the semester, I want you to, we're going to do a quick overview of the continuum of services, and I'm going to relate that back to who made this idea of who makes up collaboration. But this is not where we are going to be spending the vast majority of our time as we talk about collaboration this semester. We are going to be focusing more on some of the more formal structures, the RTI process and the IEP process, and what collaboration looks like in those scenarios. But I want you to remind yourself and be familiar or refamiliarize yourself with this idea of the continuum of services. And as we are working through RTI, as we are working through the IEP, I want you to be thinking about how these those structures clarify what collaboration looks like throughout this continuum of services. All right. So as a quick reminder, level 1 of the continuum is the general education classroom. No supports. This is for special education students. So these are general education and special education students who are in the gen ed classroom without support, doing well, doing what they need to do. Level 2, general education class with consultation from the special education teacher. All right. So again, this is very similar to level 1. However, the teacher may the teacher may be receiving support from the special education teacher. That does not mean that the SPED teacher is in the room working with the students. but that rather that they are helping you provide supports that may be necessary. Level 3, general education classroom with support. So this is co-teaching and becomes a very common collaborative model that we see both in special education and in regular education. So this is where we can be talking about either multiple teachers in the room, a teacher and a paraprofessional. We're going to be taking a much deeper look at different forms of co-teaching later in the semester, and we will see the different ways that that can be structured. Level 4, general education class with resource room support. So this is the first opportunity that we see where our special education students or those that need additional support are going to a different location and working with a different teacher outside of the classroom. Level 5 is special education classroom. So this would be a self-contained classroom where our students are receiving more individualized instruction. And in those situations, it's very often the case that those students will come into the general education classroom. So now again, we have a general education teacher and a special education teacher who are working together. Level 6 and level 7, where we have specialized schools and specialized facilities. If you are at those schools or facilities, then you have your own kind of structure of collaboration built into that. But if you are in the general education school and you have students who are in those specialized schools or facilities, you may be collaborating during a transition. You may be collaborating, moving a student into one of those schools or facilities. And you may be collaborating as they are in these other settings, maybe on a temporary basis. So there's still opportunity for you in the public or private school to be collaborating with teachers and educators in the specialized school and the specialized facility. So again, when we talk about RTI, we'll have the opportunity to see what how RTI kind of overlaps in levels 1 through 4. And how the IEP process overlaps with levels 5 through 7. All right, so in this module, there's a couple of things that you guys are going to be doing, and go ahead and pull up Moodle to look through as we are doing this. You have 3 quick assignments. Most of you at this point have already either taken a look or completed these assignments. So you have our discussion forum 1, you have an introduction to collaboration assignment, which isn't written on here. You have the continuum of services interview, and you have the collaboration log. So over the course of the semester, each of these modules is going to have 2 to 3 more reflective assignments that go along with it. As I said at the beginning, that's really what this is about. This is about reflection. This is about identifying your own strengths and weaknesses, what you're going to need to work on as you get ready to be a collaborator over time. So starting with the collaboration log, the prompt for this one is, for some people, collaboration comes naturally and is enjoyable. For others, it is very challenging and rarely successful. Based on the readings, identify what your strengths and weaknesses are within the identified framework for collaboration. So readings there, I have posted the discussion or the PowerPoints or discussion notes from the text. I'm blanking on her name, the interactions test by Friend. So be reading through chapters 1, 2, and 3 of that text, look over those PowerPoints, and use that as the basis for what you are responding to in that collaboration log. So what do you think are going, given the frameworks of collaboration that they talk about, what strengths and weaknesses do you have? All right, where do you stand today? This is really a reflective baseline on what you think is going to be easy and hard for you as a collaborator. Second assignment, the intro to collaboration assignment. The prompt is identify 5 groups that you believe you will have to collaborate with as an educator. I listed many of those groups today, and they are listed in the PowerPoint here. For each of these groups, describe what you think will be easy and what you think will be challenging in terms of collaboration. Responses can be bulleted, yada, yada, yada. So very, very straightforward. There are groups here that I think most of us plan on working with, parents and students. There are some less identified groups, maybe it might be special educators, might be support services that you are not necessarily planning on collaborating with, but I want you to think about these different groups and what is going to be easy and or challenging in terms of working with them. Probably the hardest of these Module 1 assignments, and I understand if you need a little bit more time, but I want you to try and find an educator at the elementary level and just have a conversation, a little interview with them on what it's like specifically working or collaborating in the special education environment. I haven't assigned this or given this assignment in this form before, so I'm curious what your responses look like. I don't have something specific in mind. If you're struggling to either find an educator or come up with questions to ask them, by all means reach out to me and I'll be happy to work with you on that. But I really want to see what current educators think about collaboration, specifically collaboration with special education. So I'm curious to see what you guys come up with on that. And finally, again, a number of you have already done this. For your discussion forum 1, prompt is collaboration is an imperative part of the special and general education process. From each of your limited experiences, what is your expectation of collaboration as an educator? So what are you actually hoping to achieve through collaboration? 2 pros and 2 cons. Please make sure that you post sooner rather than later and then respond to 2 of your classmates before February 2nd. All right. So that is going to be it for right now. If you look on our schedule, the next lecture is posted on next Wednesday, I believe, February 3rd. It might be February 4th, but after that, we will be into this module-based lecture posting. So modules 2, 3, 4, and 5 are each a little bit longer in length. They, for the most part, each also encompass a couple of days off. So there might be some lecture information that comes week by week. Sometimes I'm hoping it can all come at once at the beginning of the module, but we should be in good shape, off and running, and I look forward to what we are going to get done this semester. If you have any questions, by all means, shoot me an email. I know I put off answering some questions until I posted this, but if there's anything at this point, shoot me an email and I'll be happy to get back to you on it. All right, thank you very much, and I will talk to you all later.